main French publication about sports L'Equipe made a great article about Eteri Tutberidze. He came out with the headline, Eteri Tutberidze, I'm not heartless. This is not quite an interview, rather, an essay acquaintance with the coach. But there are a lot of important theses from Eteri about the Valiva case, her own impassibility at competitions, and monitoring the weight of the students. All this is all the more valuable, given that Tutberidze almost did not give actual interviews after the 2022 Olympics, even short ones, even to Channel 1. This video is a translation of the L'Equipe text with minor adaptations and abbreviations. We meet the legendary and unflappable Russian coach Eteri Tutberidze, a central figure in the world of figure skating and sports in his country, whose image has been tarnished after the Beijing Games and the Valiva scandal. At first we see only the image. A woman, tall, elegant, straight as justice, stands on the edge of the ice rink. Passionate. Nothing breaks the mask of her face, not even the virtuosity of the quadruple toe loop of one of her skaters, or the Biellmann pirouette of her prodigy Kamila Valieva. Eteri Georgievna Tutberidze, in the original L'Equipe, instead of a middle name, Gigorieva is indicated, Greta Garbo of figure skating, Swedish actress, winner of the Oscar 1954. The enigmatic character that contributed to the success is impressive. So we were kind of scared to ask her for an interview. After all, 49-year-old Tutberidze almost never gives interviews. This frosty morning near the Yubileyny skating rink in St. Petersburg, during the Russian Grand Prix, Eteri let her guard down. And she made an appointment for us to meet next week in her room at the Kristalnyi training center, not far from the Belyevo metro station in the southern suburbs of Moscow. This is the holy of holies of world figure skating, where we entered a few days later, handing over our passport at the entrance and passing in front of a surveillance camera. It was in Sochi that the legend of Tutberidze began 8 years ago. Her student Yulia Lipnitskaya, at the age of 15, became the youngest Olympic champion in the Russian national team, and her free program to music from Schindler's List made a splash. This was followed by the gold and silver medals of the Olympic Games: Alina Zagitova, Evgenia Medvedeva, Anna Shcherbakova, Alexandra Trusova. Until 2014, there was not a single Russian Olympic champion in figure skating. Since then, Tutberidze's students have won 7 out of 9 European championships. She blew up the technical level of women's skating. Kristalnyi today is the best training center in the world. In fact, this is a very simple ice rink. No stands, metal ceiling beams, and a small dining room at the entrance. Historically, the strength of Russian sports has been not so much facilities as coaches. Leonid Arkiv, artistic gymnastics, Viktor Tikhonov, hockey, are tough, demanding individuals for whom hard work is the main value. Already a sketch of a portrait of Tutberidze. On the ice, Kamila Valieva completes her workout. At the exit, he greets the current Olympic champion Anna Shcherbakova. Each of them has their own dressing room. Eteri sighs. It's not easy to manage so many champions in such a small space. Numerous panels hang on the walls in honor of the Olympic champions of the Kristalnyi school. A dozen young figure skaters are warming up next to Valieva. The 2030 Olympic champion is certainly among them, if the Russians are allowed to participate. Eteri joins us in the dining room. He takes off his famous coat and sits down, and immediately breaks the ice between us. She appears as a shy woman who begins to pour out her story, her journey, which has nothing to do with a direct and irrefutable trajectory to fame and success. Eteri Tutberidze was born in the USSR in 1974. My father was Georgian. He came to Moscow to serve in the army and met my mother there, who is half Armenian and Russian. Then he worked at a foundry. My mother was an engineer. We had 5 children, 4 girls and a boy. My mother had to feed the family. My sister Angela went to Italy when I was 14, and Marina lives in the south of France. Growing up in a family of musicians, Eteri studied at a music school. Like many young Soviet girls, she began to practice figure skating. But the coccyx was seriously damaged. I was given injections, and I grew up a lot. My height is 1 meter 78 centimeters, and my family is small. Jumping from such a height was difficult. The coach suggested that I switch to ice dancing. I felt humiliated. Dying in his soul, Eteri still goes into dancing and pursues a worthy career. She got into a troupe that staged very popular figure shows in the USSR. That show gets offers to perform in the USA. At the age of 18, Eteri Tutberidze flies to America. Not all skaters had visas. We waited a month for them, and the American producers let us down. The young girl was left to herself. I moved to live in a dorm in Oklahoma City. It happened in 1995. On April 19, 2 American white supremacists blew up a truck with 2,200 grams of ammonium nitrate in front of several federal agencies. It is located opposite the YMCA hostel where Tutberidze lived. 168 dead and 680 wounded, including Eteri, who suffered from cuts. After this event, she joined a figure show in Cincinnati and later moved to San Antonio where she began coaching. I made good money. I had good students. She married a U.S. citizen and in 2003 gave birth to a daughter, Diana, who consequently received U.S. citizenship. Diana was diagnosed with serious hearing impairment, which did not prevent her from becoming one of the best figure skaters in Russia. As often happens with Russians who leave the country for a long time, Eteri was overcome by homesickness. Yes, my soul hurt. And I missed my parents. I really didn't know if I was in the right place. So I returned to Russia with my daughter. But in Russia, no one was waiting for her. I couldn't find a job, so I took the phone book and looked for something related to ice. And that's how I found a job as a coach. I called. At first they told me that they didn't need a coach, and then, finally, they accepted me. I started to gather small groups of very young athletes at a small outdoor ice rink. It was very, very cold. It was then that Polina Korobeynikova appeared at my place. She was 3 years old. Korobeynikova will be 4th at the 2012 European Championship. Through this life story, we comprehend the foundations of a certain way of learning, attitudes towards work, towards efforts. Eteri Tutberidze did not get anything for nothing. Severity is her companion of existence. Several skaters left her and then said that she was a very strict coach. From morning to evening you do the same thing. There are no such words. I'm tired. If you are tired or injured, you still go out on the ice and work. Even if you have 2 broken toes, said her former student Polina Shubatarova in 2019. She trained with Tutberidze from 2016 to 2018. They also said that she monitored the weight of the students, did not let them drink water. She defends, "This is absurd. On the contrary, hydration is very important. And, of course, I monitor the weight of the skaters, but precisely so that they do not lose weight. Vice versa, you can't train well if you don't eat. And I do not allow skaters to train with serious injuries. Doctors are watching them. In the event of a fracture, we stop. On the other hand, if it's a muscle problem or a slight sprain, I try not to take it out of the training process." Unlike many colleagues, Eteri Tutberidze remains impassive at the ice when students pass by. Her emotionless demeanor also created a legend, a tough woman, insensitive to the fate of her skaters, who never have a long career after titles. Tutberidze defends again. "They call me the Snow Queen, but this is a myth. I accompany students, participate in their upbringing, cry with them, worry about them. That I'm heartless is nonsense. When the skaters are on the ice, I stand still. Other coaches gesticulate, but I don't like it. But inside I feel emotion." At the 2022 Olympics, when Kamila Valieva did not cope with the free program, her coach showed absolute coldness and even seemed to yell at the athlete when she left the ice. IOC President Thomas Bach condemned this attitude. The interpretation of her body language was dismissive. "I wondered how you could be so cold." Tutberidze's answer. At that time, Camila kept a little aloof. You can't hug someone who doesn't want to. And the problem is not that she failed. On the other hand, we have no right to give up. I just asked her why she let go after the second element. She just refused to fight. Besides, the Olympics is a party. Many athletes dream of being in her place. I can't stand the tantrums breakdowns of athletes. Je ne supporte pas les crises des athletes, so in the original. Then we sat together for a long time in the locker room. This accusation of Thomas Bach is unfair. I personally expect an apology. When 15-year-old Valieva tested positive, everyone turned their attention to her strong coach. A stain remained on her career of Valieva's positive test. Since the figure skater was 15 years old, then, naturally, the focus was on her almighty coach. I really don't know what happened. The whole team tried to figure it out. Watch the cameras of the Russian championship, where they checked her. And we wonder why so much time passed between the control and the announcement of the result. My skaters have always been clean athletes. These accusations are insulting. Tutberidze replies. Nevertheless, trimetazidine was found in Valieva's sample. The case will soon be heard by the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. The World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, requires her to be banned for 4 years. That would be the end of her career. Tutberidze sighs. This year, Valieva took second place in the Russian Grand Prix final, behind 15-year-old Adelia Petrosyan, another student of Tutberidze. The next Olympic champion in Milan in 2026? So far, none of them can compete outside of Russia, in particular at the World Championships, which took place this week in Tokyo. From Crystal there is Italian Daniel Grassl, Georgians Maurice Kvitelishvili and Nika Egids. Eteri Tutberidze is a central figure in Russian sports, and in January Vladimir Putin awarded her the Order of Alexander Nevsky, one of the country's highest awards. She still went to Japan as a coach. Of course, it was impossible to ask her questions about the situation in Ukraine. Psychologically, it is difficult. It's hard, she replies. Her daughter Diana Davis and son-in-law Gleb Smolkin, who represented Russia at the Beijing Games, 14th in ice dancing, will perform in the U.S. in June. According to some rumors, in the future they may skate for another country, the USA or Israel. What will the Snow Queen do?